look right off my face, but I'm still grinning. And the money ain't run out yet, so I do believe I'm winning. For all the mess I was, am and will be continuing, and the fun is only beginning. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Friday night after the bell. My name's John Zindel. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
You know, a week after doing 2 live streams of Don't Bury the Lead, we're settling back into the road to WrestleMania, and so is WWE Smackdown. So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from Smackdown from March 8th, 2024?
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead. So, pretty obvious. The main event is a talking segment with The Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Seth Rollins. Kind of a follow-up from last week, kind of rolling into this week here. And, there's lots of entrance music, lots of back and forth. And all in all, net, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, except I'd say the most notable thing is The Rock steps over the line with a comment about Cody's father, and Cody slaps The Rock, and that ends the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Dom, what did you think of this main event talking segment?
It was a foregone conclusion that they were going to say yes because, you're promoting your biggest show of the year. You've already put it in people's minds that you're going to get this. You can't say no. But it was fun watching how things played out. There were a couple of important callbacks here. Number one, you mentioned the thing that went off the air, Cody slapping The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
That was a callback to the Vegas WrestleMania press conference to kick off the road to WrestleMania, where The Rock slapped Cody. So now they've kind of, mano a mano. You slap me, I slap you. And also, I wonder how many people caught this if they're only watching SmackDown and not really keeping up with Raw. I mean, I don't watch Raw either, but I heard about this. Seth Rollins had given The Rock a rather unflattering nickname on a recent Raw. He called him Diarrhea Dwayne because of his over talking. So the crowd tonight starts chanting diarrhea when The Rock starts, mumbling on a little too long. I'm like, okay, this crowd watches Raw.
Yeah, no, I noticed them
follows
chanting
the clips on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and wherever else. So did you catch either of those 2 callbacks?
It's a great call out that the slap happened in Vegas. I forgot about that. I didn't know what they were chanting. I thought they were chanting gonorrhea, and I did not get it at all. And I was like, why are they chanting gonorrhea? And then, okay, so he said, well, that's a pretty wild thing to get over. Good for Seth.
Right.
And, speaking of Seth tonight, this is the best I've heard him in, I think, a very long time. Just saying 2 sentences, not going on and on and on. Just saying like, hey, I'm angry at you. We challenge you. We accept. And, you're a midlife crisis. Like, that's a pretty good line.
Crisis line.
Which it is. So, I mean, there's not really much. I mean, it's pretty accurate, right?
You had your time. You're not taking ours. That was,
yeah.
Paraphrase there of what Seth said to The Rock at one point. So good back and forth. Was there good balance here between all 4 guys getting their mic time in here, or did it seem like somebody went on too long and almost overpowered everybody else? I thought there was pretty good balance. Cody, Seth, Rock, and Roman.
I thought there was good balance, but nobody touches The Rock. The second he starts talking, the crowd just is oozing into whatever he says. So, I mean, he's just the best. And you could just see it. He's also positioned pretty well as the heel, and he could just say his
Mhm.
insults, and the crowd just eats it up. Um, but yeah, I thought this was it was a good segment. I do have a little bit of beef with the kind of the way that they set it all up. Just
Okay.
the length of the entrances between the Bloodline theme song, between The Rock, between his theme song and his slow entrance. It like eats, and then Cody Rhodes has to have his song, and thankfully they didn't play Seth's as well. But
Right.
Cody's is a whole thing too. So
Sure.
I mean, like theme songs, it's a good thing. But like if we watch every week, I've heard the song so many times. Like I've heard
Sure.
it before.
And
So
4 in a row, that gets a little long. I mean, what is this, karaoke night at the bar? What's going on?
it is like karaoke night. Uh it is like the top 40 songs, but my new top 40 because I don't listen to the radio and I watch SmackDown every Friday, so it's like in my head now.
Now,
But
another
anyways,
question for you.
mhm.
The Rock pulls out the corporate line saying that he's on the TKO board. Do you like them mixing sort of the real business of the WWE as a corporation into the storyline here? Like the Rock is not here as a member of the Anoa'i extended family to team with his cousin. The Rock is here as the guy in charge, the authority figure, the member of the TKO board of directors who can basically make rules.
Yeah.
What say? I mean, enough people have probably heard about that by now that he's on the board.
I think it's
Do
got
you
to be
like
a
them?
realistic part of the conversation so they at least put it into the story. And he's already a heel, so what they love their authority figures at the WWE. So he's a semi-authority figure, right? Because he
Okay.
really is in real life.
I think they almost have to lean into it since they put him on the board.
Mm.
On the other hand, I think it's better if they hadn't done that. I think this is a better story if it's just, like The Rock showing up at his old haunt to support his cousin. I
Yeah.
don't think it's as good a story if it's, The Rock got put on the board of directors and, oh, look, now he gets to come back and headline night 1 of WrestleMania and in all likelihood be involved in night 2 as well.
Right.
Like it's something extra that I don't think was necessary, but I think just the realities of business meant that they couldn't, or maybe they could have. Maybe I'm assuming too much. Maybe they could have just not addressed this.
I think
And
too
so
many
like, look,
people.
he's a board member, but he doesn't have to be a board member as a wrestler.
Yeah, but you figure like the modern fan versus like the 80s fan where everything
Mhm.
was you didn't know anything about the guys. You always they always kept to their characters. Their real life stuff they have to mix in because everyone knows about their real life. So, I mean,
And
you
especially for The
really have
Rock,
no
right?
choice. Yeah, The Rock's been everywhere and he's I mean, I went to the liquor store on like a week ago, and there's The Rock, a big cardboard cutout, and his tequila. And I texted you. I was like, "Yo," I was like, "I can't avoid this guy. He's everywhere."
He's everywhere. Hey, I go to the barber shop and my barber and anybody else who's there, any of the other barbers, the owner or the other barbers, they know I do this podcast. They know I do Don't Bury the Lead, and they know that I was Doc Lester in NJCW. They want to talk wrestling. Last time I was there was a couple of weeks ago. Like, what's up with Roman Reigns?
They want the lowdown. Yeah,
They want
they
the
want the
lowdown. We're talking pro wrestling in the barber chair, for as long as it takes for, snip, 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 snip for me to all look A level like an A-lister here. We're talking wrestling. Yeah, it is. It's everywhere. Everybody knows and not only The Rock, but like guys at this point know Roman Reigns. Like these are
Yeah,
all
for sure.
stars. These are all
Well,
stars outside of just, it's not a niche audience anymore, I don't think.
well, Dom, that's the lead. Anything else from your end? Because I got to wrap up the lead and move on to the follow here.
Sure,
And maybe you could Do you mind if you take over for the follow, as I have my
Sure.
co-host is nagging me here. So
The co-host is nagging. Well, let's go to what may have been the match of the night, and it was probably what led off the show. As far as matches go, was Randy Orton and Kevin Owens versus Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And you're thinking, barring some sort of breakdown between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, they have to win this match. And yet they wind up doing a pretty good job of stretching this one out for 10 competitive minutes. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory were not squashed in this match. KO winds up hitting a stunner on Grayson Waller, then does a pop-up on Austin Theory, sort of tossing him over his head into an RKO by Randy Orton for the pinfall at 8:29. The bell time was 8:19 here in southern New Jersey, where John and I are watching from. So this was not a bad match. And then afterwards, again, road to WrestleMania. Logan Paul comes out, ambushes both of the winners in the ring, reaches for the brass knuckles, but Randy Orton blocks the Logan Paul brass knuckles punch. That's a callback to Elimination Chamber. Gets the knuckles away from Logan Paul, and Logan Paul slithers out of the ring, and he retreats back up the ramp with Grayson and Austin Theory. This is building to Logan Paul and Randy Orton. It's got to be for WrestleMania. So I like this match. I like where it's going. Logan Paul, of course, opened the show wearing a suit. He didn't have the tie on and the collared shirt, but black t-shirt, black jacket, black pants. Not the colorful, flamboyant Logan Paul that we're used to. Maybe a hint of things to come, because Seth Rollins was much the same way. He wasn't they were making fun of him, just to do a brief callback about him being a walking clown emoji and everything. Seth Rollins was as unflamboyant as he's ever been in the ring tonight. Logan Paul, the same thing, opening the show. This was a very business-like Logan Paul. Talking about Prime Energy drink will sponsor the middle of the ring from now on, starting with WrestleMania. He calls out KSI, his business partner there. Randy Orton, of course, he sneaks into the ring after his music hit, tries to RKO Logan Paul, but he escapes and slithers out of it, leaves the ring. But KSI, he's there to take the fall, and he gets RKO'd. And this, of course, leads into, Randy's supposed to be out there for a match, and they do the match. So it was a kind of a nice wrap-up for the first half hour of the show. Logan Paul does his interview, mocking Randy Orton. Randy Orton tries to get a cheap shot in before his match. Logan Paul comes in after the match, does get one cheap shot in, but does not succeed at the second cheap shot. So
they're going to put an advertisement in the middle of the ring?
Yeah, there's going to be just like Prime Energy sitting there on the canvas in the middle of the ring for those overhead shots.
Oh, wow.
Overhead shot. Yeah, they're selling anything they can.
Yeah,
I remember when for big time boxing matches, the corners in boxing, it's not exposed turnbuckles like that, or even the pads. There's another pad that goes down them all the way. And I remember when like Budweiser would buy those corner things in the boxing matches.
Yeah,
so now that I guess they're going to try some overhead shots in a lot of these arenas. Direct overhead shots every now and then, like before a match. And yeah, there's going to be Prime Energy sitting in the middle of the ring.
That's got to be like a TKO thing because Monster Energy does it for UFC. They have the big M in the middle of the ring. So maybe they're like, oh, yeah, we do this. They probably get a ton of money. That's amazing. Prime even has that much money. It feels like a really prime spot, the middle of the ring in pro wrestling like that.
And we did a cheap heat several months ago about WWE trying to partner with another energy drink company that was supposed to be, in some sort of contract deal. I guess that has gone by the wayside here since they put the belt on Logan Paul and he's a full-time member of the roster. Prime Energy now gets their drink advertised in the middle of the ring. So there's a lot going on here. It's a decent match. I think because of what everything else turned into for the rest of the night, this is probably my match of the night. And it also has it has the biggest storylines going forward to WrestleMania.
No, a
What say
solid
you about
opener
this
for
opening
sure.
match? Were there any spots that you wanted to note in there, or any just action in general?
You know, I did just want to point out, and I might be repeating myself here, but it's just been a long fall down for Austin Theory. He goes out there, and you see the two teams, and before you would have thought, oh, Austin Theory, he's the longest ever U.S. champion, or he had some sort of record for
Youngest,
the youngest,
youngest
and
ever.
he had it for a very long time,
Hmm.
and he was doing a storyline with Vince, and you're like, wow, Austin Theory, like he seems to be the next guy, and you see him go out now, and you're like, he's jobbing. Oh, and he's even taking the pin too, right? So, it's a shame. It's not a shame, but it's just he's headed down the ladder here in WWE. We'll see if he ever kind of can recover for this. But anyways, I thought
Did you see when they bring up the video game ratings?
Oh, I
They bring
didn't
up
see. What is this
their
rating?
video game ratings for each wrestler before the show, and Randy Orton's like a 91, Kevin Owens is an 86, Grayson Waller is a 74, and Austin Theory is like a 72. Austin Theory is in NXT range
Yeah,
as far as the
72
video
is
game
low.
ratings go. Yeah, and this is for a guy who was a U.S. champ within the past 12 months.
I do have to give them credit for mixing that in, and it's helpful for the match as well. Like, I actually don't mind that advertisement for the video game because it gives you an idea. If you don't know anything, you're like, this is really where they're roughly at from an overall level, like how they actually are, how good they are, right? If you don't know anything. So I don't think it's
Austin
such a
Theory
bad
looked
gimmick.
pretty good in this match, though. I mean, he did a rolling drop kick on Kevin Owens, then tagged in Waller, and they both went outside the ring. I mean, the guys who wind up losing this match don't look terrible in this match. They look pretty good. They're good athletes, and this match stretched out to 10 minutes, and it wasn't as if they were dragging to get these guys to 10 minutes. This was a good competitive match. There was action in it. I liked it. This wasn't bad. These guys can work. There just seems to be no push for them. And let's put ourselves in the position of the wrestlers. If there's no push for you at the moment, would you rather be sent home and off TV, or would you rather that they have something for you to do on TV even though you're not getting pushed? And you can answer that however you want, but for the time being, Grayson Waller and especially Austin Theory, they seem to be leaning into the fact that, okay, you don't have a push for us, but we're on TV. We're working on our characters. We're getting TV time. People know us. We're in people's minds. Okay, we're jobbing to other guys, but this is better than being forgotten.
Yeah. And I mean, even like Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, that's not two bad guys to job to, right? No. It's not like they're getting crushed by mid-carders. That these are top guys. So, yeah, good match. Where did you want to head to next?
I wanted to head to the match that was the third of the night. It was right after the 9 o'clock hour. It was Tiffany Stratton versus Michin, and I want to mention it because two reasons. Number one, Tiffany Stratton is way over.
Yeah.
Way over. So if they had any plans for making her a heel right away, they're going to have to do much more work to get her to be a heel. She is way over with the crowd as a babyface. And
she's not a heel.
Not in the eyes of the crowd yet. They're going to have to do a lot of work. I mean, like they put in work to have The Rock be a heel. Mm-hmm. They put in work to get other guys to be a heel. If they want Tiffany Stratton to be a heel, they can't just send her out there, to do the it's Tiffy time. People love that.
They like that.
She points to her wrist. It's Tiffy time. People get excited. Like, yeah, it's Tiffy time. This is not heel stuff, or at least it's not heel stuff when she does it. Also, this was the match that on paper I would have looked forward to the most, but they only gave him like 2.5 minutes.
I know, crazy.
I was a little bit like Tiffany Stratton versus Michin. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because we've seen Michin before, and even if she doesn't win, she wrestles a great match. And Tiffany Stratton wrestles great matches. I thought this could have been match of the night, but they wrapped it up in 2.5 minutes. We got Tiffany doing that wonderful handspring back elbow. Then she does a stomp off the ropes for a 2 count. She runs off the ropes and hits the stomp on her opponent there. We saw Michin going for a Styles Clash, but Tiffany standing up out of it into an Alabama Slam. And then she hits the prettiest moonsault ever. She has a slight botch getting up the turnbuckle for it. but she gathers herself and just, redoes it again, does it well. And Meechin was in the perfect spot for it. I think Tiffany Stratton is getting a better sense of just timing and ring positioning for setting up that move. Because, like, we saw her do it the first 2 times where it looked like she almost missed the move entirely.
It was
Like
not
one
the
time
prettiest.
overshooting, one time undershooting. Yeah, this one looked like really it's named the prettiest moonsault ever. This was right there. Meechin was in the perfect position, didn't try to like squirm and adjust, which looks fake. She was just there to begin with, and Tiffany hit it, and it looked great. And Meechin took the sell. Little disappointing because I thought this could have been the better match. What do you say about what's happening with Tiffany Stratton here? We only got to see 2.5 minutes here, but I mean, what say you about the Tiffany Stratton?
Did she wrestle
Strappa-Racketour?
Meechin before?
I don't know if she's wrestled Meechin before. That's
Or
a
am
good
I
question.
just confusing? Am I confusing Meechin jobbing to another person that was getting over? Like because Meechin's been kind of our early Ricochet Memorial Award winner.
Yes,
and I think she's
jobbed to a
actually,
few people,
but she's
right?
doing a really good job in all her matches. Like she's
Yes,
good.
yeah.
And
That's why I wanted this match to go more than 2.5 minutes.
yeah, I mean they made it fast, and I guess they were pressed for time because they barely got the main promo off at the end there. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was cutting off when the Cody was slapping the Rock. It was like about to cut off and went like an extra minute, so they probably were
barely
pressed
got
for
it in,
time.
yeah.
Roman
the theme
Reigns and the
songs
Rock
went
have
longer than what should have been the best match of the night.
right. Roman Reigns and the Rock have to walk as slowly as possible as their theme song conceivably kind of also repeats too.
Yeah,
It
right?
almost sounds like it keeps going, and it's like, oh, it just play it again, and they'll keep going out to the ring. But anyways, I really liked the Alabama Slam from Tiffany. She's made that one of her big moves, and that's a real nasty move. Like, I mean, it's just you got to whip them down, and I mean, they up against the mat. So, kudos to all the workers that are taking that move now. I've seen some people put their arms behind the back of their head when they take these big bumps that typically they would just kind of take the regular flat back bump. I see them put their arms behind their head, which is a really good idea, so you don't do the whiplash thing. But yeah, so I like the Alabama Slam though.
Tiffany Stratton, I was doing looking it up a little bit here. She's they bill her at 5'7" and somewhere around 140 something pounds. She is not a small wrestler, but she does the acrobatics with her gymnastics background of a smaller wrestler. I mean, I've said it a few times. She looks like a star, and if WWE is smart, they'll make her star as a baby face unless they're really going to do some heavy work on creative, somehow getting her to be a heel. Because right now, the bright colors, the blonde hair, the acrobatics, the catchphrase that everybody loves, the signal, she's got babyface written all over her.
It's way harder to get a baby face over than a heel. So I would say make her a face. Like, it's not too late, right? She's already wearing bright pink, and they're trying to make her a heel, and she's doing all these acrobatic moves and the Alabama Slam. I'm like, that's not a heel at all, right?
Nope.
Anyways, let's move on to the next match. That one was pretty quick, but I would say I want to go to. I actually thought this should be the match of the night if there was no finish. Bobby Lashley versus Karrion Kross.
You read my mind.
I liked where this was heading.
Match.
If they had like a real finish and they let this go, I was really liking the direction they were headed.
Yes.
There was a lot of really good stuff here. So Bobby Lashley comes out. He's basically Hulk Hogan. Like, he comes out and he's supposed to be like they try to make him a heel, but the crowd just absolutely loves him. I mean, they're chanting Bobby as the match starts. I'm like, wow, he is they love him. And then our boy Karrion Kross, he's got new facial hair. He's got hair that's kind of like mine too. He has he had it pulled back in a ponytail and then long hair. So I don't know if he watches the show or what.
He's watching. Don't bury the lead.
But And then I noticed the valet of Karrion Kross now has brown hair. So there's always just new wrinkles to this very bizarre gimmick that Karrion Kross has.
Yeah.
So now it's like a mustache, and and now she's got brown hair. But anyways, I like the
Karrion
match a
Kross
lot.
has the mustache, not Scarlett.
Yes, to be fair.
Just want to clarify that for our viewers here. We are not saying that Scarlett has a mustache all of a sudden. Wow, she looks different. What is it? Did she change her hair color? Is it a new outfit? No, it's her mustache.
It's her mustache.
She's got a mustache now. Big old mustache, handlebars and everything. Yeah, she's got a mustache. Yeah. What did you like about the match? Because I like the in-ring work as well. What stood out to you?
This is something I don't usually call out too much, but I really thought it was really good pacing. Right. So that they worked really slow, but it's a big hoss match. So there wasn't lots of Irish whips and flying around, and the luchador stuff, or even the modern day stuff, is always really fast. These two just slowed it down right away. And it was just lots of like hoss brawling, like some stiff shots and some big slams. And that's all I could really ask for. I do have to say there was a couple things, and not on there. That's not their fault, but the finish, of course, was this big schmage at the end there, which was disappointing because I felt like it was headed in the right direction, and I don't know that they're going to be able to replicate that, right? Like, I don't know, like, it felt like the crowd was into it, and they could have a good match, but now, they kind of missed with having this big schmaz at the end.
Is this an undercard of WrestleMania? Bobby Lashley, Karrion Kross.
It feels like it's going to be a 3-on-3 match.
Okay, maybe a 6-man then.
It's going to be a 6-man at some point because they have all these guys involved. So I feel like it's going to be a 6-man. Or, they don't have any more pay-per-views, so it'll probably be, maybe it's the pre-show of WrestleMania one of the nights. This feels like a pre-show.
6 matches a night, so there's 12 matches, so there's plenty of room to get everybody in WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have the Andre the Giant Battle Royale, and then maybe like that one night they're going to do the Battle Royale, and one night this will be a pre-show. I don't know if it'll actually be 7 for the pre-show. You know what I mean? Like they throw the pre-show in from like 7 to 8, but I think it is probably going to be a 6-man tag. Although I'd rather see Lashley versus Karrion Kross because I think they were doing some good stuff tonight.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask you, did you see enough from this match that you would want to see a full match to a finish between Karrion Kross and Bobby Lashley? I think you just apparently answered that as yes, and I would agree. What were you going to go to for a spot or another angle?
Did you notice the unique camera view when they were on the floor? There was a camera that was like a guy walking around on the floor while they're in the ring. And they did it a couple times where instead of having the overhead view, they were doing it just from the floor looking up. That was one observation I had where I was like, I hate this camera view.
Oh, you don't like that one? Okay. They may be trying new things. We've covered on the show before that, who was it? Kevin Dunn, who did a lot of producing for the WWE. Yeah. He was a Vince McMahon guy for decades. He left around the beginning of this year. So that's why the recorded vignettes look a little different. Some of the backstage shots in show look a little different now. They're being produced differently, different camera angles, different things that they emphasize in their just how to produce a spot. So yeah, maybe that's something to look for. I noticed coming back from commercial that they had one of the handheld cameras way up the entrance ramp, looking almost eye level shot into the ring as Karrion Kross had the armbar on Bobby Lashley. And then they kind of zoomed in from that. That was a little different to me. And that also made me notice, okay, these guys are doing wear down holds and wrestling holds and some, they're going to have to do some defensive wrestling, some reversals and whatnot. And I enjoyed the match as well. And then, Akam and Razor, from the Authors of Pain hit the ring. That brings down the Street Profits. Scarlett gets involved. That brings down B-Fab.
She's back. B-Fab.
She's back. She's getting another look from WWE. They found something to do with her. That's good.
Yeah.
And
It's not her fault that she was in that, that terrible group with Top
yeah, she
Dollar
was
and
in.
such.
I've completely blanked on their name. I've put it out of my
You
mind.
del-
Hit
you
Row.
delete. It was
She was
that
in Hit Row.
It
Because
was
the
that
best
bad. You
guy is
deleted
over
it.
in AEW getting title shots, Swerve Strickland.
Oh, right.
And so so what do they do? But yes, it's good to see that they've got something for her to do. Now at the end of this, the Authors of Pain wind up with the upper hand and carrying Cross. Cross hits that face first slam on Bobby Lashley to kind of finish that match as the Street Profits are on the outside, licking their wounds. So this was upper hand. So, in the match, it was upper hand to Bobby Lashley, it looked like. But after all was said and done, it looked like upper hand for Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain. So we'll see where this goes. It looks like they're throwing out a lot of feuds that could be still relevant for WrestleMania. And if this is one of them, I don't mind it. I'd rather see Bobby Karrion Kross one-on-one rather than the six-man. But I mean, if they're going to go six-man, okay, show me what you got.
Right.
I'll give you a chance. Show me what you got.
Let's move on to the next match.
One more match, unless you think some other backstage stuff was more impressive to you.
Let's go to the match and then we'll talk backstage stuff. So we have Angel.
Yep.
Versus Dragon Lee. So they do a backstage segment before, and I didn't even realize Dragon Lee was the guy because it was just a guy in a mask. But they do the backstage segment, and then Dragon Lee goes over Angel, and then this ends in a schmaz after Dragon Lee goes over Angel. What did you think of this match and schmaz here?
Second best match of the night. They went 8 minutes. There seems to be a low ceiling for how long of a match they can put Dragon Lee in because it's so fast paced that it's got to be done. I don't know if this is a conditioning thing or if they just think the crowd is going to get bored with it and lose interest. But 8 minutes seems to be about as long as they let Dragon Lee go in any of these matches. Dragon Lee counters a pop-up powerbomb attempt into a sit-down roll-up. 8 minutes in, he gets the pinfall. And then post-match, of course, Legado del Fantasma, who were all at ringside, Santos Escobar, Humberto, and Elektra Lopez. They do the beatdown. And Dragon Lee, for all the talk of him being in the LWO, nobody from LWO came out to help him. So, he was wearing his Rey Mysterio t-shirt. But nobody was there to help Dragon Lee. So I don't know what this is. If this was, a beatdown by LDF as, Dragon Lee is the proxy for the LWO that they're trying to get after. I mean, there was no indication that LWO is got Dragon Lee's back.
Hey, what did you think of the spot with Angel, whom I didn't know this was this guy's name, but I thought he actually did pretty well in this match. When he does the fake knee injury, and it looks like he really hurt himself, and the refs got him in the corner, and he sold it so well, and it looked like kind of like he tweaked his ACL, or it looked like one of those real injuries, right? And he sold it so well, and then he hits him with a drop kick. That I thought that was a highlight of the match.
That was pretty cool. Now, I'm trying to remember. They did a spot right before that where Dragon Lee kicked him in the back of a knee in the corner. So I'm trying to remember if it was the correct knee that he was grabbing. But when he did it, I thought, okay, so he's selling the knee. But like you said, anytime you sell it so well that, you kayfabe get the ref to come over, that's, that's a heel move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I think
you're fooling your opponent and the ref, because once the ref checks, like the ref holds off your opponent. And so your opponent just stands there. So yeah, it's a heel move.
I think it was one of those things where it was such a realistic sell, and we've seen people get hurt before. We saw Rey Mysterio get hurt. Yeah. I think Austin Theory and someone were wrestling, and there was an injury too.
Yes, Carmelo Hayes. Yes,
Carmelo. Yeah, and there was an injury there. So you see sometimes people really get injured, and I thought he actually tweaked his knee, but it was a good sell by him. But
Mhm.
we can move on from this
Yeah,
match
these
here.
guys can perform. I don't think there's anything wrong with them performing. This is probably second best match of the night.
Any backstage segments you want to talk about?
They're building up Damage Control and Bailey. They're trying to make Bailey into a sympathetic figure. She's got a sit-down interview in the back that was recorded. And then later on, they've got the rest of Damage Control mocking her. Dakota Kai saying she was always the brains of the group. And then Io saying it was always Io's era. So they're writing Bailey out of Damage Control like TKO's writing Vince McMahon out of the corporation.
Right.
I wonder if we'll get some announcements that Bailey's got to sell her stock in Damage Control.
Yeah.
Hint for a little later in the show.
Oh, we're already getting cheap.
We are getting inexpensive, and yes, it's warming up. So yes, I like that they're building that. They're trying to get sympathy on Bailey, and that Damage Control is more sinister here. And then they're also trying to build AJ Styles LA Knight. Now, I like the call here not to have those guys appear live in a ring anywhere like that, because there's too much going on tonight. And that would have gotten lost. That would have gotten lost. I think it's a much better call to have AJ Styles doing that pre-recorded video, calling out LA Knight, saying he's overachieved and under-talented or under-skilled or whatever it was. And, AJ Styles is the one who's going to teach him a lesson. And then they cut away to LA Knight sitting in a chair watching a big TV, presumably just watching that video from AJ Styles. And he gets up, takes the folding chair, and just pummels that poor flat screen TV. So this was a good way to keep that feud in people's minds without burying them in a show that was just going to have too much guys walking out and talking anyway. So Good call there. I want to see that match maybe more than anything else they're teasing for WrestleMania.
Even that, you're right. That was better than all the other kind of build-up they've been doing, which is just beatdowns in the ring by a bunch of heels, which happened twice tonight. It feels like it's been happening more and more. Even weird like tonight, I don't know. We'll get to that in the thumb drive. I maybe I've spoiled my thumb drive, but so I liked some of the backstage stuff with Damage Control. I don't know why we have to change Bailey and turn her into a nerd when she was such a good jerk, and that's why people like her. Like, I don't think you need to pivot her personality to be like, oh, poor me, like I would do anything for them. And like they really watered her down in that sit down interview.
She can be the jerk baby face, can't she? I mean, they let the men do that.
Right.
They let Becky Lynch do that.
Yeah.
Why? She should have, like Charlotte Flair does that. Like all the top women keep their aggressive personalities when they're baby faces. Why make Bailey this almost timid person unless it's a swerve of a swerve coming up? I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you there. I didn't need that.
Is it? Yeah, we got some swerve of a swerve. It's this Russo booking. Something going on there. But okay. So that is the follow. And moving on here, we're going to talk about...
anything else you wanted to bring up that we may have missed from tonight? I don't see anything important that we may have missed here.
I think I have maybe some stuff for the Italian goodbye, but I'll save it for then.
Okay.
But I think in the sake of keeping the show moving here,
Parting
is it drive time?
Yeah, I believe it is drive time. It's time for the thumb drive, where you and I will distill this entire 2-hour SmackDown into a simple thumbs up or a thumbs down. There are no star ratings. There are no letter grades. There are no number grades. You are taking this course, pass or fail. No ties either.
Dom, we're not Dave Meltzer. We don't do star ratings. We don't give 4 stars. We don't give 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome. We say, hey, it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's it. So ready? Let's
I am
decide.
ready, sir.
Uh, is this show going to get a thumbs up or thumbs down? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
This show sucked.
Okay, you feel
Dom,
more strongly about it than I do. So why don't you lead off? I mean, if you say this show stuck, you have to elaborate for us, please.
I was so bored by the 9 o'clock hour, and there was so many commercials, and then there was infomercial after infomercial during the show. They were like, go to WrestleMania and meet Cody Rhodes on Thursday night. And then they were like, here's a WWE game. And then they're like, oh, on Hulu, there's going to be this show that WWE's doing. It was a straight infomercial the entire time. And then there wasn't any matches. There was only like the 2-minute squash, and then there was all these schmazes. So this show was really bad. I know the ending was good. Like, I know the main event, like that was even okay. I mean, it was mostly entrance music and stuff we've seen the last couple of weeks, and we knew
Mhm.
what was going to happen. It was no surprise. So,
Yep.
I don't want to watch 2 hours to see The Rock or Cody slap The Rock. So,
I
and
will agree. I may not have felt as strongly as you did that it was terrible, but I think I gave them a pass last week because it was the first show out of Elimination Chamber and they had to get squarely back on the road to WrestleMania. But I mean, 2 weeks in a row, yes, we know WrestleMania is coming. You don't have to hard sell WrestleMania to us to this degree. Everybody buys WrestleMania. Okay?
yeah,
People who watch nothing else all year watch WrestleMania. You don't this is not another pay-per-view that you're trying to hard sell. You don't have to do that. There's a balance to be struck between turning your SmackDown into just one giant infomercial for WrestleMania versus giving us something that makes it seem like we mattered, that we tuned in. This is 2 weeks in a row where I could have just watched the YouTube clips or the Twitter clips
yeah, you could
and
watch
gotten
just
as much out of the show as I did.
we could have just watched the YouTube clip, and they probably would skip all the entrances and just got the lines from the people.
Right?
Which, I mean, that last 30 minutes probably is 5 minutes of dialogue
Could have been
between
30 minutes for the whole show.
yeah, between the commercials and the entrances. So yeah, 2 thumbs down. And I was trying to hold back during the recap here because I was like, I'm gonna just wait till the thumb drive to bury it, but I don't want to sound too negative during the whole show. But that's the thumb drive. We give it 2 thumbs down. We typically err on the side of thumbs up. Even if the show's
Mhm.
okay, we say thumbs up. But I had a feeling, this just was a bad one.
Yeah, the 2 matches of the night that we were most looking forward to, one went 2.5 minutes because they were short on time, and the other one they ended in a DQ without getting it finished.
Yeah. All right. So, Tom, I know it's kind of getting warmer. We're getting closer to WrestleMania season. We're getting daylight savings time here in the East Coast in South Jersey.
Yes.
Is it
But
getting heat?
it's getting a little warmer. The temps may be rising outside, but it is not getting more luxurious. Never
No.
fear. Don't bury the lead, fans. No matter how hot it gets, it will still be cheap.
It's cheap,
Always
baby.
cheap.
It's cheap heat.
It's cheap
Our
heat.
segment where we discuss WWE, AEW, and other trending topics in the wrestling world. The idea here is we kind of talk about what's going on in the wrestling world outside of the SmackDown show that we saw tonight, and we make little shorter clips on YouTube. We've had a lot of success, I'd say, over the past year. We're very close to 500 subscribers, which is a huge milestone for our very tiny channel. So if you happen to be watching and you want to subscribe, it's helpful. If not, that's cool too. But let's move on to cheap heat. and I'll share
And
my
speaking
screen.
of cheap heat, let's allow the viewers to give us some of their heat. What say you, viewers in the live chat? If you're watching us live, or if you're watching this on recording, hit us in the comments. What say you about this episode of SmackDown? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are John and I being too harsh on it here, giving it 2 thumbs down? And we're going to start cheap heat here with something from last Raw. There were parts of last week's SmackDown, I'm sorry, that were blacked out. Apparently, there was a sign in the crowd that was getting on camera that said "Die Rocky Die,"
Whoa.
which that's a little harsh. we don't need to go quite there, wrestling fans in the audience. It's still real to me. Yeah, okay. Die Rocky Die's a little harsh. I mean, be clever, but WWE was a little skittish about having that sign on live TV on network television. So that is why, and this comes to us from WrestleZone, who was all over it. They caught the report first from PW Insider Mike Johnson there. Apparently, this was Fox doing it. This was not maybe a WWE call with it. It was maybe the Fox checking their master control feed, actually going out on the broadcast and saying, "Oh, no, not that." So maybe the crowd getting a little too into things there.
That's wild. That feels like an old chant that was around in the 90s that just has resurfaced since The Rock's back. Because
and that he's heel again. But I mean, maybe this isn't the 90s anymore. It's the much more sensitive 2020s.
Oh, yes, that's a good point. So, yeah, everybody's got to be careful about everything. Not to bury that story, but I think Roman Reigns called Seth Rollins a crossdresser, and my eyes perked up, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if you could say that." I mean,
this was his least cross-dressing night in years. He was just wearing black pants and a black shirt. I mean, he still had his enormous winter coat on. But yeah, when he said that, I'm like, oh, Roman Reigns going for some cheap heat.
And I was just thinking, man, Roman, his real character, he's quite the company man, and he doesn't really have a lot of slip-ups. So he might have just gotten excited and just was like, oh, yeah. We got what's going on? Hi-oh.
Ni hao again. Hello.
Yeah. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate it as always. We're
I will
GP.
butcher the name of your channel name there. But just know, great to have you here. What do you think of the Die Rocky Die sign and or chants, and what went on here in this last segment here that we're talking about now? Welcome to Cheap Heat once again. Yeah, so that's it's an interesting story. I mean, these guys don't need to do cheap heat to get over as heels, do they? They should be able to just do it.
Yeah.
Like they shouldn't need to do that. But maybe they were just, throwing out some feelers there and seeing if it would work. Totally not the right time to do it. We are doing well. We're doing awesome. Thank you.
And we appreciate you coming back in. We just watched SmackDown. We saw a crazy promo toward the end of it. But if you didn't watch the rest of it, Vince McMahon is all elite. Is it official?
Oh, wow. There we go. Wouldn't that be the swerve? Vince McMahon, he's selling over $400 million worth of his stock. TKO, this I've read is we expect Mr. McMahon to reimburse the company for reasonable expenses incurred in connection with the investigation. So maybe this is Vince liquidating some of his assets in order to reimburse TKO for the Vince McMahon saga here. Even with this sale, he still has a stake in the company of about 8 to 9%. Still has voting power with those shares. So he's still a very large stockholder in the company. But yeah, this is a big amount of stock to sell. He has a net worth of around 2.8 billion, most of which is probably from TKO stock holdings. So this was selling about 25% of his stake in the company. So that would make his stake in the company before this at about 1.6 to 1.5 to 2 billion. So yes, still a very wealthy person. But still TKO is talking about him as if he didn't actually, build the whole company and create this merger and everything. They are distancing themselves from him quite obviously in not so many words. Surprising to see him getting this kind of who dat treatment.
Yeah, this is really wild. And I'll just reiterate what I've just said before. He owned the company, he built it, and on his way out, they have not been so kind to him, especially with his words. They didn't let him kind of go out on his own. He resigned, but everything else has been real nasty, leading really into this. So interesting. You know, it's interesting. I would say that they've gone this far with this Dom, but not too surprising because hey, I mean, he works for them now. It's a very unique situation. So who knows what he was like to work with once people were telling him what to do, right? For years, he's always been
Yeah.
telling what to do. It probably wasn't such a great fit.
Right. That's another wrinkle that we hadn't talked about. Like as much as Vince McMahon wanted to negotiate this sale and merger, to create a much larger company with a larger footprint, it also means that Vince McMahon has a boss now.
Mm-hmm.
He's never had a boss, has he?
No. I mean, he's had the shareholders that he had to BS, but that's totally different than having the direct report. And then, I'm sure at that high of a level, he's getting his, his chops busted a lot by, Ari, and eventually probably gets sick of like, wow, I'm usually the one doing this, right?
So this is what it was like for everybody else who worked for me for 40 years.
And, no surprise here, but the lawsuits show that he's quite the control freak. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and say Vince, not really good for the role.
Not good for the role. This was, of course, Happier Times here from September 12th. This article comes to us from Yahoo Finance, but it was making its rounds on quite a lot of things. Yahoo Finance here, printing it from the street. So this was on quite a few different reports there. This is no secret that Vince McMahon is shedding a little bit of net worth, a little bit of ownership in the company, and perhaps doing so to pay back TKO for all that they went through in trying to extricate him from the company with as little collateral damage as possible here. A perhaps happier time for WWE is some of their stars like John Cena getting out into the movies. And with another guy, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman from AEW, they were on the same movie set in December for the Iron Claw, and they were at the same premiere of it. And John Cena apparently was enjoying his time with MJF, saying that MJF wasn't it wasn't as standoffish or hostile as he thought it would be. Apparently, it's all still real to John Cena. No one has told him that kayfabe is a thing. So, man, I'm so sorry. Excuse my ignorance. I didn't know what to expect from you today. You're a class act. I can't believe you're as professional as you are. That's just my ignorance. I'm sorry I had that judgment. I want to thank you for being so special. Thanks for making my night. So, John Cena, corporate suck up, corporate
I
yes
couldn't
man.
believe this article when I read it. I was like, how did he think he was a jerk? He's been in the business for 20 plus years. These are
Yeah.
characters they play on TV. That's not who he is, you know?
Is it still real to John Cena?
It's still real to him. Maybe I'll try to fit that in somehow. That guy saying it's still real to me.
Right? It's still real to John Cena. He can't believe that MJF is not his on-screen character from AEW.
What's so weird then is he goes up to he's like he's shocked that he's nice to him, which is insane. Like, of course, like let's say for example, I worked at I don't know the Wawa in South Jersey, and there's a Heritage, which is another deli. Like, would I hate the other people that work at the deli? Like, no. You're just like, okay, we work in the same industry. If anything, you'd want to talk to people in your industry. It's very common. So it's very strange that he had that mindset. And then in addition to that, it was really weird that he was then like, oh, well, you should join the right side here. And it's
maybe
like,
we can get you to play for the right team one day. Is the problem that John Cena's life and his wrestling work was all the same?
I mean,
like when he steps out of the wrestling ring, there's no difference.
he's not playing
still
a character.
Shooting.
Yeah.
Everything is a shoot and a work. He's mini Vinnie Mac.
He really is. He is a shoot and a work where
he's the
maybe,
ultimate corporate yes man. Like, he embodies WWE. He goes out, he tries to be a normal person in the real world, and he just can't do it. He's still cutting wrestling promos on people. Maybe we can get you to play for the right team one day.
He's got like a chip in his head or something where like he's shocked and he's like, he's so brainwashed. He's so WWE pilled that he can't even fathom that, like, oh, there's another wrestling company that could potentially exist and they're a bad company. And like, do you know what your boss just did? You know, do you know what he just did like 3 weeks ago? But
and that when I leave the wrestling ring and don't actually have a contract to wrestle with WWE, I don't have to go around being that character in real life unless that is my real life personality.
Right.
You know, MJF apparently can turn it on and turn it off. We've seen him do great sticking in kayfabe stuff before at press conferences and in interviews, but when he goes to a movie premiere, because he was in a movie, he's not like, doing his AEW heel shtick and trying to hit people with his ring.
Right. Yeah, he's I do have to say he's a good actor. You could tell because and yes. Maybe this is part of him always staying in character that really confuses John Cena as maybe I don't know. I feel like he would know that. He knew the Undertaker wasn't the dead man, right? Or did he believe that?
I don't know.
Do you think Cena was falling for like when the lightning would hit and like he would arrive in different parts of the ring that he wasn't really teleporting? Like,
oh,
he thought he was
these
really
teleporting. These are great questions. Maybe someone will have a sit down with John Cena one day and really get into the mind of John Cena, into the mind of the merman from Barbie.
Right.
This article came to us from 411 Mania, so thank you for that. Sticking with AEW, Sammy Guevara suspended in the wake of a recent television match with Jeff Hardy. Apparently, and I'll bring up the Twitter in a second here, but Jeff Hardy legit got hurt during this match, sustained a concussion, and they were perhaps supposed to go to a different finish. But Sammy Guevara did not, and instead executed his finisher on Hardy after the latter sustained an injury. So they were supposed to call a little audible here, and Sammy either did not get that message or got the message and did not do it. Either way, he gets suspended a little here. This is from WrestleOps. So the article comes to us from comingsoon.net. There's Sammy Guevara. But it was WrestleOps who reported it on Twitter X, citing Fightful Select. that he's been suspended. So you watch AEW, you have not seen Sammy Guevara the last couple of weeks, have you?
No, and I didn't realize he was suspended until this got released. I wonder. I think it might be a real thing that he got suspended because I haven't seen him. I know they are trying after all the fist fights for CM Punk and everyone and all the stuff that's been going on. I think they've been trying to like make rules for the wrestlers because
Okay.
it was getting out of hand. So this is maybe part of the rules. Like if you do a spot that's really dangerous that you're not supposed to do, then you'll have to get suspended. Oh, he also has a history of suspension.
He previously faced consequences for controversial remarks about Mercedes Moné and a backstage incident involving Eddie Kingston. So
So
maybe he has a history
shot
of not knowing where the lines are.
he shot a promo about Eddie Kingston and he called him fat. And Eddie was like so heated about it that he went after him in the backstage. I think that was like you kind of have to tell each other what is on and what is not, like what you're allowed to say, what you aren't allowed to say. And I think he's pretty sensitive to that. So Eddie got really angry at him and they got in a confrontation and then he got suspended for that.
Apparently, he also had a backstage altercation with Andrade El Idolo, but did not receive a suspension at that time because he just took a hiatus. Questions about whether Guevara has a future with the promotion. He's been a pretty good wrestler, hasn't he? I remember him in some programs with Chris Jericho, just hearing news from it. I don't watch AEW as much as a lot of our fans out there in Don't Bury the Lead world might.
He's okay.
Do you miss him if he's not gone, or is he a guy who,
Not really. He's a guy. I'll put it like this. They brought 4 guys in that were young, and he's been there since the beginning. Okay. It's MJF, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Sammy Guevara. They call them the 4 pillars.
4 pillars.
And then they were supposed to be the young guys to hold the whole company up, and he's by far the worst pillar. Jack Perry at least is doing his thing in New Japan, and I think he's doing some interesting stuff. Darby Allin had the great match with Sting, and he seems to be a future star. And then MJF is a bona fide star.
Yeah, already a bona fide star. Yes. So, so this is perhaps an inopportune time for something like this for Sammy Guevara, who's trying to work his way back up the ladder and perhaps work his way into an extension for his contract and actually working there. So we'll see what happens with Sammy there. Speaking of contracts, Jim Ross, he signed a new contract with AEW. You like Jim Ross, don't you? This comes to us from WrestleZone.com reporting on this. He was speaking on his podcast, Grillin' JR, that he has signed a new contract, that it apparently it's a new deal. It's not an extension of his own deal, perhaps because of what JR is capable of doing nowadays with his health. They've apparently reached some sort of agreement where he's able to work pay-per-views, adding pay-per-views in big events, but that JR will be used sparingly. You have mentioned before that you think this is a great role for JR, that he still adds a lot to the telecast and to the product when he is used properly and can be at his best. So is this good news to you, or were you hoping for maybe a re-up of his old deal, or are you wait and see on what his new deal may entail?
This is great news. I actually thought WWE would make a play for him, to be honest with you. Because Vince is out of the picture now, and Triple H must think the world of Jim Ross. So, I mean, at least I had assumed, knows how good he is. But I know that, especially in this specific role for JR, it's perfect for him to come in for the main event, or even the dual main event, like he did for this pay-per-view, where he did both main events. He's a main event guy. He can really add a level of seriousness to the broadcast that sometimes isn't there with Taz. He kind of jokes around a lot. So Taz and Pat McAfee are kind of in the same boat where there's a lot of joking around going on, but like when you're in the main event, like he can add that level of like he's not joking around as much.
Sure.
And then, there's been a lot of complaints about him, but I think that's mostly if, he has to do a full 2-3 hour show, he gets tired. He's too old to do it, so he gets worn out. So I think this is a great role for him to be in, and I think is a big asset for AEW moving forward to make them a legitimate. So good for him.
Sure,
I'm happy about the deal.
This would be a bad time to lose someone like JR, even though he's limited in what he can do. It seems like it's a 1-year deal, so they're taking it 1 year at a time, which is probably appropriate at this stage of his life and his career, from what he's able to do. From a quantity, the quality with JR is there, but the quantity is the question. But Jim Ross was saying that's plenty. I'm speaking to the 1-year deal and what's happening with it. That's plenty. I'm happy with it. Tony Khan stepped up. Term-wise, financial package-wise, everything was to my liking. I was very blessed to be working with Tony on that deal. He wanted me signed. He got his man, and I got my company. It all worked out real well. So this will be fantastic. He returned for the final 2 matches at AEW Revolution that we saw, which was the triple threat for the World Championship, which Samoa Joe won. And then Sting and Darby Allin against Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the Young Bucks, the EVPs, Sting's retirement match. So he was there, and we both thought that he did a good job in each of those, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He was. I thought he was good in both. And especially with Sting, him and Shivani, they have to be the announcers, right, for Sting's last match, and that added a lot to it.
Hey, well, speaking of that, there's been a lot of news about Sting's last match, even though it's over now. Talking about what was going on, how did the Young Bucks get into it? What about the finish? Sting on wrestling the Young Bucks. Whose choice was it? It was mine. He wanted to wrestle the Young Bucks here.
Wow.
First of all, I respect who they are, said Sting, who first met the Bucks over a decade ago in TNA wrestling. So, he's apparently known that these guys had a lot of talent for a long time. Apparently, they had to talk Sting into losing this match. I mean, winning this match. Like, Sting wanted to put over these guys, wanted to give them the rub, and everybody else was arguing against Sting backstage. No, you are winning your last match.
Oh, okay. So
it
was kind of like coming from where I was coming from, where I was like, oh, I get the retirement thing, which he probably is a traditionalist. Sting is like, okay, I'll put the Bucks over, and that'll be done. It's like, no. We want you to win. And I think it was so much better because he won.
Yep. I do too. I mean, this comes to us from sportsillustrated.com. They're wrestling on Fan Nation. They had another article from the same writer, Justin Barrasso. They were talking about some inside the match where Darby Allin had his crash landing on that senton through the sheet of glass that was laid out over 6 folding chairs there. Apparently, and we got a JR call, for the love of God, what have we seen? But apparently they were talking about this, and they're like, oh my goodness, we have to make sure this goes off safely here. And it was excessive. The glass was, but most people confirmed it was the one spot Darby wanted above all. There was a plan B with a different finish in the event that he could not return to the match, which turned out to be no more than a precaution.
Wow.
Apparently, once it was determined that Darby would make that jump, and there's the picture of it. There's a great still picture of Darby Allin going through the real glass. Some safety measures were applied. As much safety measures as you can have for a guy jumping off a ladder, 15 feet through glass? A rehearsal occurred earlier than usual. They couldn't have done this earlier, right? They just kind of did a walkthrough. Okay, here's the glass. A stunt coordinator instructed how to place the items and reviewed the proper protocols. There were also nearby doctors anticipating the spot who were on high alert. Had Darby not been able to finish the match, the Bucks were prepared to call an alternate finish. It was a spot that would not be on display in mainstream American wrestling anywhere other than AEW, and probably not even on their regular TV shows. This was pay-per-view.
Yeah.
This was crazy. There's the aftermath of it before Darby is totally bleeding there. They were talking about the finish being unique, but for those involved, everybody wanted him to win except Sting, and they basically convinced him. He wanted to give the rub to the Young Bucks, which I understand. I argue that he did. The Bucks fought this match 6-on-2, looked fantastic, got over his heels, were excellent in the ring, looked strong. I think he did put over the Young Bucks on his way out, even if they did not, quote unquote, win the match.
That's a great point.
Am I doing too many mental gymnastics like Darby Allin off a stepladder? Or is that plausible?
It's a great point because they look like $1 million, even though they lost to him, getting to do all the spots, getting to be in that position and executing so well. They're going to be more over as a result. And if they would have just won, it wouldn't have done anything. So, no, I think you're right. I think they're still over even though they lost.
Right. This was another big part of the match. Sting and his two sons, Garrett and Steven, who played younger versions of Sting and played them very well. This is from Twitter, from someone who found an Instagram post from Garrett, who was posting about how cool it was to be there for this match and to play Sting from the Great American Bash in 1990, I think it was. Apparently, this is because Garrett Borden has a YouTube channel of his own with 14,000 subscribers. It is called Kotas. I don't know what I'm pronouncing. He does a lot of video game tutorials. He makes educational videos for Destiny 2 primarily. His videos are always as straight and to the point as possible. Garrett Borden does not bury the lead. We love it, Garrett. We approve here at Don't Bury the Lead. Get to that main point. Yes.
Yes.
I knew we liked him. And we'll always respect your time. Well, we have an Italian goodbye here, so maybe we don't exactly nail
We
that.
don't respect the time.
The time is just there. And this is Garrett Borden explaining to people on his video gaming channel why he wasn't there for a while, why he suddenly has bigger muscles, and oh yeah, why he has a blonde flat top.
Out of curiosity, I did check out his channel, and he did one like a year update after getting monetized, and he was talking about like how much he made for the different videos, how much and all this stuff, and he was breaking it down. It was a really good video, and I was like, wow, he's just a normal YouTuber, which is funny because his dad's a pro wrestler, but I guess everybody's just a YouTuber now, right?
He seems like a normal person, and I was going to save this for the Italian goodbye, but since we're talking Sting here, maybe it's our transition because I don't have anything else for Cheap Heat unless you have something else.
I do not.
Okay, anybody in the chat watching live on Twitch, on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube who wants to send us something in the chat, go ahead. If there's something we missed for today. Sting. I think one of the reasons why Sting is so beloved and why this retirement match was as universally well received as it was is because Sting is a pro wrestler through and through. He's not a movie star when he's not wrestling. He's not a TV star when he's not wrestling. He's not a guy who's in the public eye for something else, like he's a big businessman. He is a businessman, but he stays out of the public eye with it. He and Lex Luger have owned gyms for forever, back to their WCW days. But he's really a pro wrestler. It's not like he's going to be a movie star. I mean, he did TV movies 20-something years ago. But if you see Sting, it's because he's wrestling, and not that he's making a cameo to push his new movie, or because he just got on the board of directors of AEW.
Or he wants to sell his Prime Energy drink.
It's none of that. Sting wrestles because he wants to be a pro wrestler. And I think this resonated with people, that Sting didn't come back for a cameo in AEW. He came back for 3 solid years plus a couple of months and was on the AEW programming regularly on free TV, on pay-per-views, cutting promos, wrestling, even though he couldn't wrestle like he did 20, 30 years ago, or even 10 or 15 years ago. But this guy came back to be a pro wrestler, not to be a cameo for something else. And I think that's why people universally love the guy. He is a pro wrestler, first, foremost, and almost entirely. And it looks like, his sons are just normal people as well. Like when Sting's not in a wrestling ring, Steve Borden is a normal person. He's not a Hollywood guy. He's not a spotlight guy. He's not a big business flashy guy. I mean, maybe I'm just rambling here.
Maybe it's one of these things, Dom, where it is cool to see because it doesn't happen as much anymore, because everyone, once they become close to doing something in the celebrity world, they all seem to have to want to do everything. Like The Rock, he's got his own energy drink. He needs to be a movie star. He needs to be a wrestler. And then even like people outside of wrestling, like Kevin Hart, he does everything. He does stand-up. He does movies. He does documentaries. Now he's got a show where people sit in a cold bath and they do interviews. So now he's in like podcasting. So like he just, everyone that's a celebrity or some type of celebrity or musician or whatever, they do other things outside of what they're good at. And it's kind of, it's a bit much sometimes. So now you have a guy like Sting. He's been wrestling his whole life. He only wrestles. It's refreshing.
And it's also refreshing that he appears not to be the guy who tries to wield a lot of political power behind the scenes. Early in his career, people said maybe that was a fault of his, that he should have done it more. Cough, Starrcade 97, cough. Where he just didn't stand up to it for himself backstage, against people like Hulk Hogan, who was politicking all the time. And then so it's totally believable that Sting, was planning out his last match like the Bucks from 10 years ago when they met in TNA, wanted to have them beat him as he goes out, even though he's being cheered like crazy in Greensboro, and everybody else is like against him.
Yeah.
Like he's not politicking for himself, even to the very end, and everybody else is having to convince him, no, this is what's best for business. Win this match. Give people what they want. How much do you remember about Sting before his AEW run? Because I'm wondering if AEW, if there are some people who have met Sting in AEW who wonder if he was always just this really crazy hardcore wrestler going through tables and crap,
I only knew a little bit about him when he was wrestling in WCW, NWO, that stuff, and he was part of the Wolfpack, and he would come down from the rafters and he'd have the face paint and the bat. So that's all I really kind of knew about Sting. And then he did the woos. And I always thought the woos, I was like, does he rip that off Ric Flair? Who did this first?
He does the ow. He does more of a howl.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's supposed to be ow.
So are we kind of in the Italian goodbye here, Dom?
We might be in the Italian by here. I've got Garrett Borden's YouTube channel up here, Kothas. If you want to go find him, find out more about what he does. He's also got a Discord there, Kothas Gaming. If you'd like to go find him, I'm not playing the audio here on his, so we're not trying to like steal his content or anything. Don't give us a copyright strike. We're just trying to promote a fellow YouTuber here who was involved in a wrestling show that we both enjoyed. So go check out Kathas as we chat here. I don't know if you want to leave that up on the screen. I'll leave his channel up there for people to get more of an idea of where to find Garrett Borden on YouTube. But yeah, we're kind of just moseying our way down, taking the long way home here.
Yep. So let's hit the next segment here, and it's our final segment, and it's the Italian goodbye.
This is the Italian goodbye. Sorry, Garrett. We don't not waste people's time. We sometimes waste a little bit of time, but mostly it's our own time that we waste during the Italian goodbye because we just can't, wrap it up. We can get to the point, but we can't wrap it up. We're still working on the back end of the show, where we kind of put a bow on it and have a clean finish and a sign off and stuff. But
we're hanging out for a minute.
We're hanging out for a minute. We're in no hurry.
We're standing in the living room, and everyone's standing, and we're right by the door, and we're saying, "Well, all right. Well, nice to see you. Yeah, we should get together again sometime." Oh, okay. Well, where'd you get together? Oh, there's a new place down here. Oh, okay. Yeah.
We've almost got our coats on.
Oh, right. Yeah. Hey, and don't forget, we have some sandwiches here. Do you guys want one? Oh no, we're okay. Oh, take a sandwich. Come on. We're at that. That's what Italian goodbyes are like.
Absolutely, and it's we should have you over sometime. You should come by our place. Did you see? Maybe we'll meet out in the and did you see the It's everything brings up a new thing here and there. So, were you saving some stuff for the Italian goodbye here? I was saving a little more of the Sting stuff, but the cheap heat kind of flowed into it very nicely there, with the waves.
The only thing I really wanted to save was what I forgot was Roman Reigns saying that he called them a cross-dresser in 2024, which I thought, that is interesting. It
looks like The Rock got censored for something. Like they muted him when he was saying something to either Cody or I think it was Seth, where he called him something. So the Rock is getting a little colorful with his language during these promos, apparently, while Seth Rollins is getting uncolorful with his non-cross-dressing this evening. The Rock and Roman are getting a little more colorful with their pot shots that they're taking at these guys. Even
right.
The Rock even saying, you were a mistake to Cody Rhodes. You ever wonder why you're so much younger than your brother and your sister? You were a mistake. So, hey there, getting a little personal. Dustin Rhodes is still on the roster over at AEW, isn't he?
Yeah, they did mention Dustin Rhodes during that promo. But he's wrestling in AEW. He didn't mention that he was in AEW.
Didn't mention he was in AEW. He just mentioned he was older and that he's either a Hall of Famer or future Hall of Famer for WWE, which he probably would be when he stops competing actively, or at least for AEW. But do you see Dustin Runnels a lot? And is he going by Dustin Rhodes, Dustin Runnels, Dustin? What's he doing? Do you remember? I don't know.
Rhodes.
Dustin Rhodes. Has he been on TV a lot, on pay-per-views? Do they have a place for him, or is he like an agent and a producer behind the scenes more?
He helps out with the training. He's got like a school, the Nightmare Factory. He and Cody had a school called the Nightmare Factory, so they were trying to bring people along. So the thing is, He wrestles from time to time, and he looks good. He really does.
Okay.
He still can go. He looks good. He's in good shape. He's kept himself in really good shape.
Okay.
There was a time there. I don't know if you know anything about this, but he had a really bad drug and alcohol problem, so he
Oh,
was a real mess.
okay.
And as a result of the drug and alcohol problem, his wrestling kind of went downhill. Uh, he looked sloppy all the time,
Mhm.
and when he was Gold Dust, he
Okay.
and after Gold Dust, and then in TNA, I don't know what he was doing in TNA, or I don't know how if he was he in TNA?
I don't remember much of him from 10 to almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, he might have gone, maybe went to rehab while he was there. He was he just wasn't he was putting on weight like crazy because of
Okay.
all the issues, but
Sure.
he has since cleaned himself up. He's 100% sober. So as a result of him being sober, he can keep going, I mean, if guys clean themselves up, they're 100% sober. He has a good diet, he exercises, he's still going.
Guys in their 50s, especially if they can wrestle in tag teams, look like they can still be viable. Billy Gunn is doing that, right?
Yeah, Billy Gunn's a great example. He's jacked to the gills too, and he's just in a 3-man tag team.
Yep.
Um,
So his maybe conditioning and maybe losing some of the sharpness that won't be exposed as much. Like he doesn't have to do a 20-minute match by himself.
right. No,
So I think maybe the
they would.
exceptions are Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, who may be getting close to 50, and maybe
Yeah,
Chris Jericho as well. He still does solo matches, but those are kind of the exceptions. And I wonder what it's going to be in the next, really, maybe if they're still around 2 to 3 years for guys like Cage and Copeland. Because Christian Cage looks like he can still do one-on-one matches. We saw Revolution, and we didn't do a full recap of the whole card. I finally did
yeah.
get to go back and watch the beginning of that pay-per-view. The opening match of the night after the pre-show was Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia. And I'm going to say it, match of the night.
Whoa!
I liked it. There was wrestling, there was grappling, there was defensive wrestling and offensive wrestling. It wasn't just offensive. It wasn't the NBA All-Star game, for crying out loud. It was like a real match. And it was well done. I liked it.
No, I
I
thought that was good
enjoyed his
too.
work. I like Christian Cage's work. He's like what Adam Copeland was saying. He's become a Bond villain.
Yeah. Hey, we could go through it. Hey, we got some time. We're doing the Italian goodbye here.
Yeah.
What we didn't talk about the rest of the matches. So, did you see the tag match between John Moxley?
Moxley and Claudio versus FTR.
Yeah. What did you think of that?
I was surprised that Moxley was not the one bleeding profusely.
Right.
It was, I think it was, I'm going to get them confused. It was Dax or Cash from FTR.
Yeah.
But the whatever they are they the Blackpool Combat Club? They wind up winning it.
BCC. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
they
you might
wind
have.
up winning.
I thought you might have liked that one because it was real slow and they were doing lots of wrestling early on, like
They
wrestling,
did a
slow
lot of
moving
wrestling early
wrestling.
on. FTR is really good at that. So is Claudio. And
Mhm.
Moxley, when he has to wrestle, can wrestle. He just doesn't, he just goes for what I think are the shortcuts. With
He does
like
take some shortcuts.
just the shortcuts for heat, but the cheap
The
pops and
blood.
cheap heat. Yeah, and just like the weapons and stuff, and just brutal spots and kick out, brutal spot kick out.
Mhm.
So that match wasn't bad. Toni Storm looks like a lot of fun. Just her mannerisms and her persona. That she's like the British aristocrat that's looking down on everybody else. She's the female William Regal, Steven Regal, depending on where you know him from.
Yeah.
And she's like built like him too. Like she's solid. She's a little stocky. She looks like she could be a real athlete and can grapple. Toni Storm looks like the female Regal. So I like that, especially with the mannerisms and the persona. So I like that. One of my all-time favorites, and he never got a world title belt, but it was Lord
Yeah.
Steven Regal. Just I'd watch him wrestle anybody.
I
There's
love
a
I love
Go ahead.
I love her gimmick. I think it's just with everything coupled with the music. I mean, it's a comedy gimmick, but it's so good.
But
Like
she can
especially,
wrestle.
oh yeah, she can wrestle too, and oh, I forget
The Butler.
the butler. The manager's name is great. I'll have to look it up, but it's
And
so
he's the
perfect
butler. He's not a manager. He's a butler. Of course, because she has a butler. So I liked seeing her. She seems to have a good gimmick and can perform at everything, talking, persona, wrestling.
I got it. His
Eddie
name is
King,
Luther. The
Luther.
butler's name is Luther.
Of
Which is-
course. All right.
Which
Very
is perfect
good.
for a butler name, Luther.
Yeah, for a heel butler, yes, Luther, like Lex Luthor from Superman.
Right.
So yes, the heel butler.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston and
Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson.
Mhm.
Pretty good match. I like the backstory there too. Is apparently I didn't obviously know it, but apparently there was some like respect that they were each trying to earn from each other. So they did the handshake thing afterwards. Not a bad match, but I mean, the first match of the night, I thought
You
was
missed
match
it.
of the night because it was the best one-on-one wrestling match on the card.
And Bleacher Report screwed you.
Right? So I couldn't watch that until the next day with the Spanish announce team.
Did you get your money
that
back?
and most of the Eddie Kingston Bryan Danielson match.
Did you get your money back?
I may be getting a refund for one of the double billings. Yes. I got the email today. I'll have to check to see if the money arrives over the course of the next 3 to 5 business days. Thank you.
Oh, of course they can't give it right back. It's 3 to 5 days.
No,
right?
they take it immediately.
Take it.
But it takes 2 sessions with a chat person 5 days apart for you to finally get the acknowledgement that you're getting a refund for one of them. And then whether you actually get the refund, that's another thing. So,
And not only do they take it immediately, they took it immediately from you twice.
twice, like right away. It's not in escrow or anything. It's like, oh, we have your money. Thank you very much. Oh no, we can't give it back to you. Not at all. Yes, we told you twice that your card didn't work, but guess what? It worked both times, and we have your money to prove it. Twice we told you that you did not buy the pay-per-view and then would not let you see it. But we have your money.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
Maybe they just had a lot of volume that day of traffic because of what's such a huge event that it was. But apparently the pay-per-view was very well received. I saw some ratings for it. Out of 10, people were giving the pay-per-view overall like high 9s. They were giving the Sting and Darby Allin versus the Young Bucks match specifically like 9.6s. The match before it, the triple threat, was like 9.5 when I saw it. So people really liked the pay-per-view as a whole. And I think it was because the 2 main events carried it.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that everything else was bad, but when your main events deliver, like it's difficult, and we've talked about this, it's difficult to pan a pay-per-view if the main event delivers. We mentioned that last year, 2023 Royal Rumble, where it was kind of okay. Both Royal Rumble matches were, the women's one was better than the men's. You
gave a thumbs down, right?
Well, the men's one, we both gave them thumbs up, but it was because the way it ended saved it, with Sami Zayn turning on the Bloodline.
Oh,
like
right.
that saved it. And we were both saying, like, until that point, this was a subpar pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that main event saved it. Like the Mountain Dew match was dopey. The Bianca Belair Alexa Bliss match with the Uncle Howdy thing at the end was dopey. The Cody Rhodes thing felt forced. Mm-hmm. Rhea Ripley had a fantastic Royal Rumble, but like that was the only one. Mm-hmm. And then even the main event, the match wasn't that great until the aftermath. If your pay-per-view finishes strong, people will make exceptions for weaknesses throughout. But
I
if there's
remember it now.
weaknesses, but even if the rest of the pay-per-view is a little stronger, a dud of an ending will leave people with a bad taste in their mouths.
And you know what was really great about that ending with the turn?
Mhm.
The intensity of the whole thing, with
Yes.
Kevin Owens being strung up,
Yes.
and then they were like, "Do it!" And they're like screaming at him, and they throw the thing. They're like, "End him! End him!" And
Yep.
like the Usos are saying, and, you know, especially Jey Uso. Then he's so scary.
Yep.
Go, Uso, end this, and you're like, "Oh man, end him!"
Roman
They're
just like push slapping Sami Zayn a couple of times, like just hand
Yeah.
against his cheek and shoving his head away, like,
Yeah.
and then getting back up in his face again. Yes, it was so intense and it was fantastic.
And then
you
he
know,
goes, whacks Roman with the chair,
yep.
and they're like, "What are you doing? What are you
Yes,
doing?"
and the
Everybody freaks
crowd
out.
is insanely over for it.
Yeah.
The
And
crowd
hey,
loves it. And then the crowd is behind Jay as he slides out of the ring and won't take part in the beatdown.
yeah, Jay won't take part of the beatdown, and Jimmy does, but Heyman was like, "Ah,
Yeah, because he
he's doing all
sees
that
it,
stuff.
he sees it breaking apart. Oh no. Yeah,
Although
so
it
a
seems
great
stronger than
finish
ever
can
right
do that.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
a great finish can do that. Now, so you don't remember Sting being anything other than this weird car crash wrestler.
I mean, I knew him in AEW, and that's when he did the car crash stuff.
The car crash wrestler, yes.
I do remember him in WCW, but I remember him from like the video games. Like I
Okay.
didn't really watch that much. I don't really I didn't recognize him for such a great worker. I think he was mostly working on the pay-per-views, and they
Okay.
were at this point WCW was always doing storyline stuff, and it was just the NWO jumping people. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember
Okay.
that era.
Yep.
It's just like
Yeah. So,
2003 or
when they
2002.
were
No,
dying, yes.
when they were dying, he was still there. They were running out of gas, and they were just jumping people all the time. So I never saw Sting wrestle. It was just NWO jumping people.
And he had 4 matches in WWE in that short stint there. The Seth Rollins one ended with him injured and he had to stop for it, and that was the end of his career, they thought.
Yeah. Hey,
They
listen,
turned his WrestleMania match into weirdness.
we got 4 people in the chat. So if you
Hey,
guys have
tell us
anything,
what's your favorite Sting memory. Do you know him from something other than, the elder statesman doing these weird car crash matches in AEW while he's fully clothed in blue collar workman's attire? Because I remember every incarnation of Sting, every part of his career. And I think the fact that he's been able to change his style over the years is why he's been able to do this and be semi-believable. And, all credit to Darby Allin also for carrying this tag team.
oh yeah.
I mean, Sting wanted to go out putting over people. He put over the Young Bucks, even though he won the match. He put over Tony Khan. He put over Darby Allin. He put over the whole promotion. He put over all of All Elite Wrestling. And apparently the scene backstage afterwards was all these wrestlers who just did not leave the arena. They waited for Sting. They waited for his press conference to be over. And then people just like coming up to him, shaking his hand, thanking him for everything. I mean, he put over the entire promotion. Everybody you could imagine he put over, not only in this last match, but for 3 years, because he is a pro wrestler. He wasn't there to pitch a movie. He wasn't there to get promotion for something else. He wanted to go out as a pro wrestler, and he did what he could do to wrestle. Like, the car crash stuff, it's a shell of his former self. If you remember him from, they were mentioning the first time we saw him in Greensboro in a main event, it was Clash of the Champions 1, the highest rating that TBS had ever done. Him and Ric Flair, the 45-minute time limit draw. Check that out online somewhere if you can find the full match. So he wasn't going to be able to do that, but whatever he was able to do for 3 years, he took the pro wrestling business seriously. He put over everybody who he came into contact with. Everybody. And I think that's why the universal acclaim for him was what it was. Like, this was not a guy who went into business for himself at all. He likes pro wrestling. That's his profession, and he did it. So tell us in the chat, tell us in the comments, what say you about the way Sting went out? What has been your impression these 5 days since his last match, where some of the stories are slowly coming out and being published about what it was like in the time leading up to that match, putting it together, the responses from his co-workers in AEW and from elsewhere. What say you? Let us know. It's a lot of fun when we get these kind of comments and we get this kind of back and forth in the comment section. And to that note there, check us out on YouTube, wherever you are watching us on the live stream. The mother load is on YouTube, not only the live streams and the recordings of those live streams, but our archive of everything. The shorts, which are the 60-second and under videos that John puts together. The edited clips, which are anywhere from a minute and a half to maybe 5 minutes, or even we'll take a whole chunk from our live stream, like the lead. We'll just take the whole lead and break that out as its own video. All of that stuff is at the YouTube channel. So please find us on YouTube, subscribe there. We are getting close. We are getting close to our next big benchmark in subscribers. We are up to 486. Will we get to 500 before WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, the first weekend of April? That's April 6th and 7th, a 2-night event. We will, of course, be covering the SmackDowns, the Friday night SmackDowns leading up to that. So March 15th, 22nd, and 29th. And then, of course, the first weekend, we will be, hello from San Diego, love the show. Hello from South Jersey, we love the comment. Thank you, Credit Repair. Credit
Really
Repair,
appreciate
what
that,
do
man.
you think of not only the show tonight, but some of the stuff we've discussed? What did you think of The Rock and Roman Reigns maybe getting a little off color there with their big closing segment on SmackDown tonight? What do you think of the Sting farewell match and the reaction and response he got from everywhere in the wrestling business? What do you think of anything else we've covered tonight and our analysis? Sometimes we don't like to be in our little bubble here. You know, like we both gave the SmackDown tonight a slight to a very not so slight thumbs down. But maybe we were too harsh. Tell us if you liked the show. Tell us if you like SmackDown more than we did. We are open to hearing those arguments.
And Credit Repair, I'll check out your channel when we're done. I'll subscribe to you. So that's for sure.
Hey, very nice. That. Yes, if you have some other content that you are putting out there, you know, maybe we will find you. We did a big thing tonight on Garrett Borden's video game channel, since that we became part of the Sting farewell as well. So yes, check out that. Thank you to everybody, all the news outlets out there who cover this stuff and have those inside sources. That you know, we've said to their, hey, everything you've been saying has been on point. Love the show. Keeps updated. Hey, thank you for that. You know, we
that means
try.
A lot,
we give it a good effort. Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
And you know, just to let you know, we do every major show we're after. So not Raw, but every SmackDown we're on live. So Friday night, if you don't have anything going on, we're on from around 10 to 12. And then if there's another wrestling show, let's say, for example, there's a WWE pay-per-view, we hop on right after the pay-per-view. So that's our schedule. So if you want to check us out, let us know.
For those instances, we usually skip doing a Friday night because a lot of times the Go Home SmackDown is just an infomercial for the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And, you know, and at that point, the storyline, it's either going to be rolled into the pay-per-view recap or it's going to be, you know, forgotten or anything. So in that case, WrestleMania weekend, April 5th SmackDown, you will not get a Don't Bury the Lead Friday night. You will get coverage of WrestleMania that weekend, though, including maybe some first-person footage from John, who will be at night one, planning to be there in person, night one of WrestleMania, right in Philadelphia.
I got a lift. I got no bicep. Yeah.
You got to get in shape for your match like Garrett Borden did.
Right. No, yeah, I'll be there night one. I'll definitely be taking a lot of videos at night. I think I will be taking a lot of entrance music videos, as a matter of fact, and I'll be posting them live. I'm gonna try to get some footage so I can make a vlog too.
Okay.
But we should do a video, Dom, in advance, a WrestleMania preview video.
Okay.
And I would like to try to do what we did last year. Do you remember that?
Top 5 matches we're looking forward to.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, something
then-
like that could be in the works. I like it. Now, you mentioned trying to get a lot of video footage of entrance music. The WWE, do they do a lot of entrance music? Do they spend a lot of
Yeah.
time on entrance music?
Yeah.
They do. Okay. I hadn't
Did you
noticed that after watching tonight's SmackDown.
I was like, what is she? Oh, you're setting me up. Okay, okay. Oh, after tonight's SmackDown, you didn't notice when they're like, dun, 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 dun,
Forever.
dun, 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 and then it repeats. Dun, 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 dun,
Right,
dun,
it's-
dun, 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 dun.
So, hey, you know, it's a big show. So, you know.
Uh-huh.
So all part of it. So hey, I've got nothing else. If the viewers watching along have anything they want to have us touch on before we go, I'm game for doing a little rapid fire here. But other than that, it's been a fun show. It's been a good show.
I think it's time, Dom. I think it's been a good show. And I'm gonna make a short video here tonight. So I think it'd be a good time for us to hop off so I can get something going. Thanks for all that joined. I'm gonna call him D Money because I don't know how to pronounce his name. We'll call him D Money.
Okay.
And Credit Repair as well. Credit Repair. I'll definitely check out your channel, man. So appreciate you hopping on. And everyone, we're close to 500 subscribers. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining and have a great rest of your evening.